Hello everyone, hope everyone is doing well. If you are new to my channel, you're just finding me on YouTube. My name is Rebecca and I was diagnosed with stage 3B HER2 positive breast cancer at the beginning of 2024, and I have been going through treatments and documenting everything along the way on my YouTube channel, from when I was diagnosed and through chemo and through surgeries and targeted therapies and whenever I can have radiation. All of that. I've been trying to document how all of that's going, and concerns and bumps along the way, and successes and joys, and all of that. And I'm kind of prefacing this video saying that that's what my channel has been about. And one of the reasons why I've done that is because when I was first diagnosed and petrified and had no idea what I was facing or what my life was about to turn into, I obviously started doing research and looking to other sources to try to understand and try to learn and be prepared. And I think a lot of folks that have a serious diagnosis, cancer diagnosis, anything like that, we live in a world where information is at your fingertips. So I discovered YouTube, and the YouTube, I'm gonna close this, I think, if I can. Oops, I'm doing it the wrong way. Fancy cars. YouTube, I don't know how to close my sunscreen all of a sudden, or whatever that's called. Real life, y'all. Here, I figured it out. Because the light's getting a little crazy. You know, just my life right now. Sorry. Anyways, so I digress. As I was doing my research after I got diagnosed, one of the things that I found on YouTube were a few other women that had documented their stories and kind of did what I'm doing right now, and it was very helpful to me because it put a face to a diagnosis. I will say a lot of the channels that I found and the amazing women that I watch and that I still watch now, they have a different diagnosis than me, because there are so many different variations of breast cancer. And so that means there's so many different treatment plans, and it just makes it so confusing to someone that's just starting out and learning about what their disease. So I decided to kind of document mine, because mine's unique. My diagnosis is unique, and as compared to some of the other women that I follow that are amazing. I think that there's a couple that have similar diagnosis to me. They may have been in a different stage when they were diagnosed, but for the most part, there aren't too many YouTube channels that I know of that have the exact same diagnosis, and the ones that are, I find very valuable. I'm saying all of this, I just spent 5 minutes talking about that, because this video is going to be a little bit different than the videos that I've done before. The videos that I've done before have really kind of talked about me and what I was going through at any given moment. But I want to talk about something else, and I am sure that I am going to get some folks that disagree with me and may not be happy about what I'm going to say. And that's okay, because I really do believe that, you know, what makes us great is that we have different opinions and different ideas and different thoughts. And as long as we're respectful, then, you know, that I'm totally okay with people disagreeing with me. But I feel pretty strongly about this, and it's probably because it's raw to me right now and I'm in the middle of it. I am a firm believer that you have to be cognizant or aware of your platforms that you have. And I live that every day of my regular life, and I have for years. For people that don't know this, but I am actually an elected official. I serve on a local school board. I'm the board chair. And I have been for the last 4 years, so since COVID. So the last 4 years have been pretty eventful in my life, and there's lots of opinions in politics, and I think it's just important to stay respectful and to be aware of what you say publicly, because it can always be twisted, and it can always people will disagree and there's strong opinions. And this is not really going to be a political post, so let me preface it by that. I'm using that as a comparison to understanding, you know, when you're an elected official, you have a platform. When you're on YouTube, you have a platform. When you're famous, you have a platform. And that kind of gets me to the famous part. So yesterday I saw on many news outlets that a supermodel, Elle Macpherson, a very, very beautiful woman. I didn't realize that she was 60. She is amazing. She looks amazing. Obviously, she's a supermodel. But Elle Macpherson, who has a very big platform, the whole world knows her, I guess disclosed that in the last 6 or 7 years, I think in 2017, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And in every article that I can find, it identifies her form of breast cancer as HER2 positive breast cancer. I don't know all of the details, so if I get any of this wrong, you know, I'm going off of news articles. Apparently she has a book coming out where she discusses this in greater detail. I have not read the book, obviously. I don't know her. But what the news is implying is that she was diagnosed with an early stage HER2 positive breast cancer, and estrogen positive breast cancer. I am not estrogen or progesterone positive. I am ERPR negative and HER2 positive. So already hers is different than mine. But that HER2 is important because there are, you know, the way that I was told when I was diagnosed was, 20 years ago, HER2 had a very, very poor success rate, survival rate. And the treatment plans then were different. Even the treatment plans were different up until 2019 from what my oncologist has told me, that my regimen, that my plan for the next year is, evolved in 2019. So it's still relatively, in the medical speak, new. Anyways, she disclosed that she had this cancer, HER2, ER positive, ductal carcinoma. And it's interesting to me. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with that, but when you look up intraductal carcinoma, that means that it is, that's another way of saying DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ. From what I gather, I've seen a lot of talk about this on support groups on social media in the last 24 hours, and everybody's kind of like, intraductal carcinoma, that's DCIS. I also have DCIS. I have DCIS and invasive ductal carcinoma. So, but DCIS is that stage 0 cancer that hasn't spread, it's contained. It's interesting to me that they have the HER2 positive identified in hers, because when I was going through my whole situation, and you can watch that on my channel, I have videos from the very beginning. But when the DCIS was diagnosed first, the pathology on that biopsy, it didn't identify the HER2 gene or HER2 component. It only identified the estrogen and progesterone. So I don't know. I mean, I guess different doctors do different things. I'm just not sure. That's just interesting to me. And the reason why I say that is interesting is because listening to what some of the things that she said about her proposed treatment is interesting, because she mentions chemo, and DCIS doesn't typically have chemo because it's contained, and chemo doesn't resolve that. From what I know, I am no doctor. I'm just kind of talking about how it's just confusing listening to some of this stuff, but that goes to the point that everybody's cancer is different and everybody's treatment plan is different. I acknowledge that. What I am frustrated at about this whole situation is that she is using her platform to say that she ignored traditional medicine advice, conventional standard of practice, standard of care for breast cancer, and went a complete natural path to get rid of her cancer. And I'm conflicted. I'm going to be honest, because I do believe that there are places for natural medicine, and I think that it's not like I'm completely opposed to natural medicine or natural, holistic approaches. But I think that more often than not, traditional medicine has a place, and ignoring that and using a platform that is just so unusual of a situation, I just almost feel like it's a little bit irresponsible, because her life and her situation and circumstances are so drastically different than the majority of people in the world. And what she has access to is so different than so many people. From what I read, she consulted with 32 doctors. That's insane. It's so crazy. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do that if I had the ability to do that. I've consulted with multiple doctors in my area, and I don't fully, I will say this, my medical oncologist, I have complete faith in. Everybody else, if you watch my video with the surgeons and all that kind of stuff, they have definitely frustrated me. And I'm very blessed to have my doctor, who is a faith-driven man and so wonderful, and his nurses and his nurse practitioner, they're so great. They've gotten me through some of my darkest days. They're great. I'm very blessed for that. But I have had some pretty crazy conversations and experiences with other folks that I can understand why some people might, not want to go the traditional route in some circumstances. But that being said, Elle Macpherson had, she's identified that she's had 32 doctors, and that they all recommended mastectomy and chemo and I think radiation. She never talked about the targeted therapy, but that might just have been left out. So I don't really know what she was recommending in full, but she didn't go that route. She went with like a holistic doctor. I don't even know if it was a doctor, a chiropractor, a holistic dentist. And she just did her own thing, I guess. And what she is saying now is that her scans and her blood work all indicate that she's in complete wellness. And I think I've seen someone use the word remission, but I think she's saying she's in complete wellness or something to that effect. I'm sure I'm not going to get all of this right, but and that she has been for 7 years, and that, a lot of people doubted her, which I'm sure that's true. And that she's healthy. And let me start by saying I'm so glad that she's healthy. That's wonderful. I do believe in the great physician. I believe that there are miracles every day. I believe that everybody's treatment might look a little bit different. And I do think that she has, I think I've seen a couple of things where she qualifies, a couple of statements where she qualifies, well, this might not work for everyone. But I've also seen other, I said I was looking at some commentary on a support group that I'm on and on social media, and some folks were talking about how she's releasing this book and how she's releasing a wellness line with herbs or something, vitamins, I'm not really sure, and that this might be like a PR stunt. I don't know. I don't know. But what I will say is I feel like it is a very questionable way to use her platform. People might not agree because she's telling her story just like I'm telling my story. And like I said, I'm conflicted about this, but I really do believe that you have to hold yourself to a higher standard when you voice your opinions publicly, when you have a farther reach than the normal person. And she is not the normal person. And I think we've seen several instances of celebrities that have decided to go against traditional medicine, and it didn't work out for them. Shannon Daltrey, she went to conventional medicine, but I believe that I saw an interview, and some folks were talking about it last night, about how she didn't go the traditional route at first and regretted it. And Steve Jobs that he went a different route and regretted it. I don't know, Suzanne Summers, I don't know. I don't think you ever really know if you make one decision or another, how much time that buys you in life. You just don't really, you don't know what that looks like. So I acknowledge that. But I think you have to be responsible about it. So the HER2 diagnosis for her breast cancer situation is what bothers me the most, because HER2 treatment is tough. It's very tough. The cancer treatment chemo regimen is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I've talked, if you watch some of my other videos, you'll hear me say, in the 5th and the 6th round, like, I didn't know if I could get through it. I don't know, even now, I don't know that I could do it again. because of quality of life. I mean, now that I'm on the other side and I'm getting through some other things, you know, I have 3 babies, and of course I would think that I could, you know, try to get through it, but the PTSD on the THCP or TCHP is real. I mean, it is really tough. And so it's almost like some folks might not be willing to go through that and would want to go. The natural route just makes it sound so easy. And that doesn't mean that it's easy, I know, but it makes it seem like it's the easy way out, and that it might help you feel better in the short term, but in the long term, it's not going to help your survival. And so it bothers me that you have someone that can use that platform in that way and influence an unknowing breast cancer patient that was just diagnosed and is super scared and doesn't know how they're going to pay for chemo or how the treatment, or how, you know, how they're going to be able to take care of their families or any of those things. And you see this supermodel that just, you know, bucked traditional treatment and is alive and healthy and thriving 7 years later, which is a great thing for her. I am very happy for her. I just don't think it's responsible. I don't know how else to explain it. And I feel like it's an irresponsible thing to make the headline out of whatever she's trying to accomplish right now, whether that's, you know, her book or a business or whatever. That's the story, is that she didn't use traditional chemo for a very aggressive form of breast cancer, and she is thriving. While that's great, other people are seeing that don't have her resources, and I just want to reiterate how important traditional medicine is. One of the things that I saw last night in the chat, and I don't know if I'm really speaking right now to my fellow breast cancer survivors, patients, all you know, that's who I'm talking to right now. Someone new that is researching, or someone that's going through this and trying to find out what everybody else is doing. I'm really talking to those folks right now, those women, because I feel like you'll understand where I am conflicted, because you should be able to choose whatever treatment you want. But this is such a hard diagnosis. And what doesn't lie in this situation is the data. And the data is 25 years ago, a HER2 positive diagnosis would kill you. And now, if you do the treatment, the traditional treatment, 98% of women don't get a recurrence within 5 years. Now, that is in 10 years. And you know, we're still so close out with that Herceptin, Perjeta, you know, combo. And Herceptin is what is the miracle drug for HER2 positive breast cancers. You know, that's just so important. And I'm speaking to y'all because, you know, you probably know the conflict that I'm feeling, because you want to cheer on a fellow breast cancer survivor, but you also want to be like, hey, look, you have to make wise decisions and informed decisions, and just make sure that you're really pushing that not that type of treatment is not going to be for everyone or for the majority of women. And I think she may be doing that, and so I'm not slamming her. I'm just saying, hey, fellow warriors, like, know that you have to make the right decision for you. And in the majority of cases, I believe that the standard of care is going to be very similar in the traditional medicine route. And what I was getting ready to say, you get like squirrel chemo brain. I feel like it might not ever go away. But what I was going to say is, on one of those groups on social media last night that I saw, some women were talking about this movie that has Harry Connick Jr. Not so bad to look at, right? Harry Connick Jr. and he is playing the doctor that invented Herceptin, which is the drug that will save all of us. And it follows that story. It's called Living Proof, I think is what it's called. It is a very so I was watching it as I was going through the TCHP regimen, that Taxotere, carboplatin, Herceptin, Perjeta chemo regimen, which is the chemo and targeted therapy for those that don't know. I watched that movie late one night and just cried, because just the fight that this man had to get this drug through to where I'm able to have it today. And it showcased some of the women in his trials, and his clinical trials, and the very first woman to ever do a trial was a young mom. And anyways, she was in the first round of the trial. There were, I think, 4, and she passed away, but she was like the first woman that got a drug approved that is allowing me to sit here and complain about a supermodel. And so that's awesome. And I'm not really complaining about a supermodel. I'm just kind of, these are the things that I think about now. This is my life. Like, I think about how I can be responsible and help others, and have different opinions. So all of the folks that watch this that don't agree, that's okay. I'm okay with that. And I'm not trying to attack her, because it worked for her and she has the resources. I just, like I said, use your platform wisely. And I hope I'm doing that here. But if I'm not, I'm sorry. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the whole Elle Macpherson breast cancer diagnosis situation. I'd love to know your thoughts, and I appreciate you watching this. If you don't subscribe, I hope that you subscribe. I'll be following the rest of my cancer treatments, and I'll probably talk about some other things too, like today. So all right, I hope that you have a blessed day. I'll talk to you later.